If you travel or are really into airplanes, you might have already noticed that many countries have their own airline, or maybe a few airlines in the case of bigger countries. Sticking to this region, the flag carrier of France is Air France, Spain has Iberia, Germany has Lufthansa, and the list goes on and on and on. So what about Lithuania? Where's the national airline for this country? Well, unfortunately, Lithuania doesn't really have an airline of its own these days, at least one that travelers can directly book a flight on. The closest thing to a scheduled passenger airline is airBaltic, but this company is based in Riga, Latvia. Even though it is most definitely a Latvian airline, airBaltic bases some of its planes in Vilnius, but it's nowhere near the same level of activity as at Riga Airport. Once upon a time, Lithuania did have its very own airline. In fact, the country had its own scheduled carrier up until about 2009. According to VLE.lt, the very first Lithuanian airline was founded in 1938 as Lietuvos oro linijos, which translates to Lithuanian Airlines. This airline consisted of two 6-seater planes that organized flights from Kaunas to Palanga and to Riga. Unfortunately, between 1940 and 1941, all flights and the company's assets were taken over by the USSR company Aeroflot. Fast forward to 1991 and Lithuania regaining its independence, Lithuanian Airlines was revived with the Lithuanian name Lietuvos avialinijos. And the country was the first in the former USSR to start flights with Western planes. This government-owned airline wasn't very profitable, and so after more than 10 years of limited operations, it was privatized in 2005 and sold off to FlyLAL Investicijų Valdymas, which translates to FlyLAL Investment Management. Under its new owners, the airline would operate under the name FlyLAL. Wikipedia says that this airline got as large as having at least 13 aircraft and 13 destinations, but other sources state that there were even more aircraft than this. Unfortunately, FlyLAL wouldn't last long as the airline would continue to be unprofitable, eventually ceasing operations in 2009 and going bankrupt the next year. 2008 was an especially bad year for the airline as the global financial crisis hit. On top of this, FlyLAL also got into a price war with airBaltic, which many people blame for the airline's downfall. In fact, a 2016 article by lrytas.lt starts off saying this: the Vilnius District Court recognized that Latvians are to blame for the company's bankruptcy. Riga Airport and airBaltic, using unfair pricing, forced the Lithuanian company out of some routes, which caused it to suffer 16 million euros in damage. Shareholders of FlyLAL tried to take legal action against airBaltic, a legal battle that would go on for almost 15 years. In one lawsuit, FlyLAL and its shareholders asked for around 140 million euros in compensation from airBaltic, alleging that it pushed the former airline out of the market. However, in 2020, the Lithuanian Court of Appeal completely rejected the lawsuits against airBaltic and Riga International Airport, finally settling the long-running dispute. Whether or not airBaltic did anything shady to harm FlyLAL, I can imagine its mere presence as an airline serving Lithuania with competitive prices would have had a major impact. Interestingly, the Lrytas article I mentioned earlier also states that in 2013, 17 people were charged with the bankruptcy and fraud of FlyLAL. I'm not sure if anything came of those charges. I should mention that there was one part of FlyLAL that had survived a few years after the bankruptcy, its charter airline division. In 2010, FlyLAL Charters was authorized to perform flights to Greece, Spain, Italy, and various other countries. In July of the same year, FlyLAL Charters was rebranded to Small Planet Airlines. The charter airline flew mostly to Greece, Spain, Tunisia, Turkey, Egypt, and Bulgaria. In Lithuania, Small Planet Airlines cooperated with major travel companies like Tez Tour and Novaturas. The company also provided special flights, flying government delegations, sports teams, and other private groups. Again, financial difficulties would sink this airline, and in November 2018, the Lithuanian Aviation Authority revoked the operations license of Small Planet Airlines, resulting in the grounding of all of its flights. I should state here that the story of FlyLAL is pretty complex, and I'm giving a very, very, very rough summary to it. If you are interested in the details of the downfall of this airline, I'll try to leave some links in the description for you to check out. But these days, there are just a handful of Lithuanian airlines that operate charter or leasing services. Three of the more notable ones are Avion Express, GetJet Airlines, and Heston Airlines. Like I mentioned at the start of this video, you won't be able to book a flight on any of these airlines directly. Instead, other scheduled carriers might seek the services and aircraft of these companies in order to handle extra flights or cover for other aircraft undergoing repairs. The front page of Avion Express's website puts it nicely. It's the airline for airlines and tour operators. So for example, I recently took a trip to Tallinn with airBaltic, and we actually ended up on an Avion Express plane for the flight to Estonia. airBaltic is currently dealing with some engine problems, and so they're somewhat short on aircraft, and so I guess they hired the services of Avion Express. Flying to and from Lithuania these days, there are many regular, non-charter airlines that travelers can choose from. airBaltic is the only option to get you from Vilnius to Riga or Tallinn, but it also goes as far as Dubai. The airline even has one of its aircraft painted in the colors of the Lithuanian flag. There are bigger airlines from other countries too. LOT of Poland, Finnair of Finland, Lufthansa of Germany, Turkish Airlines of Turkey, and the list goes on and on. Ryanair and Wizz Air are low-cost airlines that dominate Kaunas Airport and are also a major part of flights from Vilnius Airport as well. So while it's sad that Lithuania doesn't have an airline of its own, it's really hard to imagine one surviving in today's really competitive environment with low-cost airlines and the big full-service carriers. Maybe one day in the far future, airBaltic will be something more like Scandinavian Airlines, or SAS, which has become the flag carrier of Denmark, Norway, and Sweden. SAS flies as far away as Los Angeles and Tokyo, and it would be so nice if an airline could do that directly from Vilnius too. But I know that's just very, very wishful thinking. At the same time, SAS isn't doing all that well financially either. So you can see that it's even difficult for larger airlines to survive in the European market. But hopefully after watching this video, you can understand why Lithuania doesn't have a national airline anymore. Lithuania is a small country whose population isn't large enough to support its own airline. On top of this, the country isn't exactly rich like small Middle Eastern countries of Qatar and like Kuwait, where the government supports their national airlines. At the same time, running an airline is a very expensive business, and so maybe it's better that government funds are better spent elsewhere. Although, if you do disagree with that, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comment section. But to wrap up this video, the word of the day is the word skristi, which is the verb to fly. Skristi. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.